The courtroom was alive with whispers, a low murmur that rolled like distant thunder through the gallery. Every eye in the room seemed locked on the young black man standing at the defense table. His suit looked a little too big on him, his tie slightly crooked, and he shifted uncomfortably as though he wanted to disappear into the floor. He looked out of place, and that was exactly what attorney Charles Whitman wanted the jury to believe. Whitman was a man who had walked these floors for decades, his reputation one of sharp words and sharper arrogance. His grey hair was slicked back, his suit pressed so clean it looked like it had been ironed onto his body. And when he opened his mouth, his voice dripped with venom disguised as charm. "Ladies and gentlemen," Whitman said, pacing slowly before the jury, "look at the boy standing there. Does he look like he belongs here? Does he look like a lawyer? Or even a man who understands what justice means?" A ripple of laughter moved through the gallery. Even a juror or two smiled faintly. Whitman pressed harder, circling like a vulture. "This young man," he sneered, "is a nobody. He has no degree, no standing, no authority to even breathe in this courtroom. He's nothing more than a child playing dress-up, and we will not allow the integrity of this court to be mocked by his presence." The young man lowered his gaze, his shoulders tightening, his hands gripping the table so firmly his knuckles turned white. The crowd leaned into the humiliation, whispering and chuckling, feeding off Whitman's performance. Whitman stepped closer, towering over him, and hissed, "Why don't you do us all a favor and admit it? Admit that you don't belong here? Admit that you're out of your league, you're not a lawyer. You're not even worth the time this jury is wasting by listening to you. You are nobody." The words landed like heavy blows. The young man's silence stretched, and in that silence the laughter swelled. Whitman smirked, glancing back at the judge as if victory was already sealed. But then slowly, the young man lifted his head. His eyes were calm now, steady, not filled with anger, but with something stronger. He reached into the inside pocket of his jacket, his movements deliberate, measured, unshaken by the laughter surrounding him. The room grew quiet. He pulled out a slim black leather case. With a flick of his wrist, he opened it, and in the sterile light of the courtroom, the gleam of an official bar license card shone clear for all to see. The silence snapped into shock. The gallery gasped, a juror dropped their pen, even the judge leaned forward, eyebrows raised. The young man's voice cut through the silence like steel through silk. "My name is Jordan Carter. I am a licensed attorney in this state. I passed the bar 2 years ago." Whitman's smirk vanished, his face paled, his mouth opening and closing, but no sound escaping. The laughter died instantly, replaced by the sharp sting of realization. Jordan held the card higher. "I am not a defendant. I am not some child playing dress-up. I am an officer of this court, sworn to uphold the very laws you claim I don't understand. Today, I stand not as a nobody, but as co-counsel." The crowd erupted into whispers, disbelief spreading like wildfire. The same people who laughed now leaned forward, ashamed of their own mockery. Whitman staggered back a step, shaking his head. This is a trick. You can't be serious." Jordan's voice didn't waver. "Respect should not be a prize, handed out only when credentials are revealed. Respect should never be denied because of age or skin color or appearances. You called me a nobody, Mr. Whitman, but the truth is, it is arrogance and prejudice that make a man small, not youth or humility." The judge cleared his throat, breaking the tension. "Mr. Carter's credentials are valid," he said firmly, his eyes narrowing at Whitman. "This court recognizes him as an attorney in good standing. And Mr. Whitman, I suggest you remember where you are before you hurl another insult in my courtroom." A flush spread across Whitman's face, his arrogance, once towering, now cracked and fragile. The jury eyed him differently now, the respect he had demanded crumbling beneath his feet. The gallery no longer laughed. They stared at Jordan Carter with new eyes, eyes that saw not a boy, but a man who had just silenced an entire room with truth. Jordan looked at Whitman, his voice calm but cutting. "You tried to humiliate me. You tried to strip me of dignity, but the truth will always rise no matter how deep arrogance tries to bury it." For a long moment, the courtroom was silent. Then Whitman's lips curled, just slightly. His smirk tried to crawl back, though weaker this time, tainted by desperation. He leaned closer to Jordan, his voice low enough for only him to hear. "You may have shocked them," Whitman whispered, his tone laced with venom. "But you've just stepped into a game you don't understand. And I don't lose. That little license won't protect you from what's coming." Jordan's eyes narrowed. For the first time, a flicker of uncertainty touched his steady gaze. He opened his mouth to respond, but before he could, the judge's gavel struck the bench. "Order in the court!" the judge barked. "We will proceed after recess. Court is adjourned for now." The sound echoed like a gunshot. The room erupted into frantic whispers, the gallery buzzing with speculation. Whitman turned away, his shoulders squared, his face twisted into a mask of false composure. But Jordan saw it, that glint of something darker in his opponent's eyes. Something planned, something dangerous. Jordan stood frozen, his license still in hand, the weight of Whitman's words pressing heavily against him. What did he mean? What game was about to begin? The camera would cut here, the tension suspended in the air like a held breath. The screen fades to black, and the words appear in bold. The gavel's echo faded, but the whispers never did. People spilled out of the courtroom in clusters, buzzing with disbelief. They weren't talking about Attorney Whitman anymore. They were talking about Jordan Carter, the nobody who had silenced a room with nothing more than his name and his license. But Whitman. Whitman's face told another story. He didn't lose often, and when he did, he didn't take it lightly. His lips pressed thin, his eyes cold, calculating, already searching for his next weapon. As Jordan gathered his papers, he felt a shadow looming over him. Whitman stood close, his voice low enough that only Jordan could hear. "Enjoy your little moment, boy," he whispered, venom dripping from every word. "Because when we come back from recess, I'll make sure you regret ever stepping into my courtroom." Jordan didn't flinch. He slipped his bar card back into his pocket, looked Whitman straight in the eye, and said calmly, "The only thing I regret is that you still think intimidation is the same as power." Whitman's jaw tightened. He said nothing more. He didn't need to. The storm in his eyes said enough. The recess ended, and the courtroom filled once again. The air was heavier now, charged with tension. Whitman rose first, his smile rehearsed, but his eyes still burning. He walked to the center of the room and began his attack. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," he said, his voice smooth, "you've just been deceived. This young man has paraded himself as a lawyer, flashing his license like a trophy. But let's not forget, experience matters. Knowledge matters. And appearances aside, Mr. Carter is still just a child playing in a world he doesn't understand." He gestured toward Jordan, his tone sharp. "And while he may hold a license, I ask you, would you trust your future to someone so green, so untested, so unprepared? The law isn't about theatrics, it's about wisdom. And he has none." The jury shifted uncomfortably. Some nodded, some frowned. Whitman's words, though poisoned, dripped with the weight of authority. He was regaining ground. Jordan stood slowly. His voice was calm, but it carried a steady conviction. Experience isn't measured in grey hairs or years on the calendar. It's measured in truth. It's measured in the willingness to stand for what is right, even when it's difficult. Whitman chuckled bitterly. Big words. But tell us, Mr. Carter, do you even have experience? Or did you simply slip through the cracks of the system, the way so many do? Because if the truth came out, I'm sure this jury would see you're not the shining figure you pretend to be. The room tensed, the accusation hung heavy. Jordan's hands tightened on his notes, but he didn't rise to the bait. Instead, he turned toward the jury. If standing here, facing mockery and prejudice, and refusing to back down, if that is inexperience, then perhaps the world needs more of it, because experience without humility is nothing but arrogance in disguise. The jury murmured. The judge leaned back, studying both men with a sharp gaze. Whitman's smirk faltered, but only for a moment. Then he leaned over his briefcase, pulled out a thick folder, and held it up with a dramatic flourish. "Since you want to talk about truth, Mr. Carter, let's talk about yours." Jordan froze. His eyes flicked to the folder, then back to Whitman. A ripple of unease moved through the room. Whitman opened the folder, his voice loud and clear. "Ladies and gentlemen, what Mr. Carter hasn't told you, what he's been hiding, is right here in my hands, a record, a past that raises serious questions about his so-called credibility. You see, it's easy to wave around a license, but what happens when the mask comes off?" Gasps echoed through the gallery. Jordan's chest tightened. His mind raced. What was Whitman about to reveal? The judge banged the gavel sharply. "Mr. Whitman, proceed carefully. This court will not tolerate slander." Whitman bowed his head theatrically. "Of course, Your Honor. I would never slander. I deal only in facts." He held up the folder again, locking eyes with Jordan. "And the facts about Mr. Carter's past will change everything you think you know." The room leaned in. The jurors held their breath. Jordan clenched his jaw, the weight of the moment pressing down like iron chains. And then Whitman slowly opened the folder. But before a single word left his lips, the judge's gavel slammed down again. "Enough," the judge declared. "This court will recess until tomorrow morning. Mr. Whitman, you may present your so-called evidence at that time under strict review. Court is adjourned." The gavel's crack split the air, but the tension remained. The jury was restless. The gallery erupted into chaos. Reporters rushed toward the doors. Jordan stood frozen, his heart pounding, his mind racing. What was in that folder? What could Whitman possibly have dug up? Whitman walked past him. His smirk returned, his voice low and cutting. "Tomorrow, boy. Tomorrow your little fairy tale ends." Jordan didn't respond. He couldn't. He could only watch Whitman walk away, the folder in his hand like a ticking time bomb. The screen fades to black. The words appear in bold white letters across the screen. If this story shook you, share it now. Drop your thoughts in the comments and subscribe so you don't miss Part 2, when Whitman's secret folder threatens to destroy Jordan's entire future.